In the early hours of March 24, 1998, Amy Lynn Bradley stepped out onto her cabin balcony aboard a Royal Caribbean cruise and vanished. No body, no witnesses, no explanation. The only shred of information to cling onto was Amy befriending an onboard band member at the ship's nightclub. That and mysterious photos from an escort website 17 years later that resembled Amy. Over 2 decades later, a new witness has come forward with a chilling account from that morning. And if it's true, it could finally expose what really happened to Amy Lynn Bradley. The case. Amy Lynn Bradley was 23 when she vanished from Rhapsody of the Seas, a Royal Caribbean cruise ship, as it docked in Curaçao on March 24, 1998. She was on vacation with her parents, Ron and Iva, and younger brother, Brad. At 5:30 a.m., Ron saw Amy asleep on the balcony. By 6 a.m., she was gone. Her shoes, t-shirt, and personal items were left behind, as if she'd stepped out for just a moment. The family immediately reported her missing and pleaded with ship staff to prevent anyone from disembarking. Instead, passengers were allowed to leave, and a full search didn't happen until later that day. Meanwhile, Royal Caribbean crew cleaned the family's cabin, likely destroying any physical evidence. The FBI didn't board the ship until 2 days later in St. Martin. The night before she vanished, Amy had been dancing at the ship's nightclub with Alistair "Yellow" Douglas, a band member who'd taken an interest in her. According to Brad, Amy confided that Yellow had made a pass at her. Around 7:30 a.m., before her disappearance was announced, Yellow reportedly told Brad, "Sorry to hear about your sister," raising suspicions. Though Yellow passed a polygraph and was never charged, his behavior, along with multiple witness accounts, has kept him central to the case. In the months after Amy's disappearance, several people reported seeing a woman who looked like her across the Caribbean, in a Curaçao brothel, on a beach with 2 men, and in a restroom in Barbados. In 2005, the family received disturbing photos from an escort website. The woman, known as Jazz, resembled Amy and appeared to be hiding tattoos that matched Amy's unique ink. These sightings fueled a theory that Amy may have been abducted and trafficked rather than lost to the sea. Her case has since become one of the most infamous cruise ship disappearances ever recorded, and her family has never stopped searching. Recent developments. For more than 2 decades, the disappearance of Amy Lynn Bradley remained a cold case, discussed in online forums, revisited by investigative shows, and dissected by amateur sleuths, but with no substantial movement. That changed in 2025 when Netflix released a 3-part documentary series titled Amy Bradley is Missing. The series reignited interest in the case on a global scale and brought forward new information that could dramatically reshape the narrative of what happened on board Rhapsody of the Seas that morning in 1998. In interviews timed with the release of the series, Brad Bradley revealed details the family had long held privately. Central to these revelations were 2 key witness accounts, and a third that had never been made public before. Let's start with the known witnesses. 2 sisters, identified only as Laurie and Crystal, had come forward back in 1998, claiming to have seen Amy with Yellow, the ship's bass player, in a glass elevator at around 5:45 a.m., just minutes after Amy was last seen asleep on the cabin balcony. According to their account, Amy was carrying a camera and accepted a brownish drink from Yellow. The trio rode the elevator up to the ship's top deck nightclub, the same lounge where the group had partied hours earlier. Moments later, Laurie and Crystal said Yellow exited the elevator alone. Amy was not with him. Crucially, the girls returned to their cabin shortly after, and their mother, who had to open the door for them since they didn't have a key, placed them arriving just after 6 a.m., corroborating their timeline. This may seem like a small detail, But in a case defined by a narrow and murky timeline, those few minutes matter. Yet, incredibly, the FBI never interviewed the mother, despite her being the only person able to verify the timing of her daughter's return. Nobody interviewed the mother of the two girls that opened the door that morning, Ivor Bradley told People. Brad added, "The FBI dropped the ball, beginning with the most basic investigative procedure, establishing a timeline of the disappearance. At the time, agents dismissed Laurie and Crystal's account as unreliable, citing an inability to confirm when exactly they'd seen Amy. But the new interviews confirm their timeline, and with it, the possibility that Amy was alive and moving around the ship well after 5:30 a.m., possibly under the influence of something, and in the company of a man she no longer trusted. But the biggest revelation was yet to come. According to Brad, a third witness named Elizabeth was also on board that morning and saw something that had never been made public before. Elizabeth claimed to have seen Amy and Yellow inside the nightclub shortly before 6 a.m. She watched as Yellow allegedly prepared another suspicious brown drink at the bar and handed it to Amy. Not long after, Elizabeth noticed a commotion. A young woman, around 18 or 19 years old, ran out from the back area of the lounge yelling, "Senorita, kidnap! Senorita, kidnap!" multiple times. Who this young woman was, a crew member, another passenger, someone else entirely, remains unknown. But according to Brad, Elizabeth testified to this account under oath before a grand jury sometime after the original investigation, suggesting that the FBI has known about this for years and did not act on it. The implications are profound. If accurate, Elizabeth's testimony not only places Amy alive and in Yellow's presence closer to 6 a.m., it introduces the possibility that someone else on board may have witnessed an attempted or actual abduction in real time. Brad speculated that Yellow may have handed Amy off to somebody who took her down into the crew quarters based on the timing and suspicious behavior. This would explain why Yellow was later seen by the sisters exiting the elevator alone, appearing nervous and avoiding eye contact. It also raises new questions about access points on the ship that may have allowed someone to hide Amy or remove her from the vessel without detection. And while Yellow has always denied involvement and passed an inconclusive polygraph, the Bradleys now believe that circumstantial evidence around him has only intensified with these new witness statements. Importantly, Yellow now resides in Grenada and is outside the reach of U.S. subpoenas. Adding to the controversy was the reappearance of Kirk Detweiler, the ship's cruise director, in 1998. Detweiler gave an on-camera interview for the documentary and defended the decision not to delay the cruise itinerary when Amy was first reported missing. His words shocked viewers. "We're not going to stop everybody's cruise because there's a missing girl," he said. Brad later described Detweiler's attitude as flippant and emblematic of the cruise line's indifference. "He's become one of the most hated men in the world right now," Brad told People, citing the flood of public outrage following the show's release. Back in 1999, the Bradleys had sued Royal Caribbean for negligence, but the suit was dismissed by 2000. In hindsight, the family believes the cruise line's mishandling of those critical early hours, especially the decision to allow passengers and crew to disembark before the ship was searched, cost them their best chance at finding Amy. "They could have locked that ship down," said Brad. "They chose not to." But the renewed spotlight has brought more than just anger. The family reports that since the documentary aired, new leads have poured in, including messages from viewers who believe they may have seen Amy or know someone connected to the case. The family's website, amybradleymissing.com, continues to receive tips, and their private investigators are vetting each one. Meanwhile, the FBI publicly reaffirmed that Amy's case remains open. They even re-released age-progressed images of what Amy might look like today. But in private, the message to the Bradleys was more blunt. After the documentary aired, the FBI's liaison on the case reportedly told Diva that the Bureau's position has not changed. There's still no proof Amy ever left the ship alive. To the Bradleys, that stance is not just frustrating, it's wrong. You can't say she never left a room when you never even interviewed the witnesses who saw her, Ivor said. All 3 family members have made it clear. They believe Amy is alive. Brad explained that he and his parents have always shared a kind of unexplainable certainty. People don't understand how we could feel like that, but we do, he told Fox News. We've never talked about her in the past tense. Even now, they continue to maintain Amy's green Mazda Miata, the car she left behind, just as she left it, waiting for her to come home. With new witnesses, a global audience re-engaged, and investigators revisiting old leads, there is a cautious sense of momentum. As forensic expert Peter Valentine observed, this case is probably going to hinge on somebody remembering that they know something, a passing comment, a small detail, a long-suppressed secret. And with the world watching again, that someone may finally be ready to come forward. Our previous conclusion. In our earlier analysis of the Amy Lynn Bradley case, we applied Occam's razor, the idea that the simplest explanation is often the most likely, and concluded that Amy most likely went overboard in the early hours of March 24, 1998. Whether that happened by accident or as a deliberate act remains unclear, but the absence of any confirmed foul play, combined with the narrow window in which she disappeared, made this the most plausible explanation at the time. There were no signs of forced entry into the Bradleys' cabin. The door used a keycard system and no unauthorized access was recorded. No witness reported seeing Amy after 5:30 a.m., and none of the ship's cameras ever captured her in public areas after that time. No one heard screams or a struggle. Her shoes, ID, and purse were left behind, suggesting she didn't intend to go anywhere far. To investigators, this pointed toward one conclusion. Amy likely left the cabin by her own volition, possibly stepping out into the balcony again or somewhere else on the ship, and either fell or went over the railing voluntarily. The ship was preparing to dock in Curacao, and activity on board was still minimal. If she went overboard in that short window before 6 a.m., it's entirely possible no one saw or heard anything. Tragically, more than 70% of people who fall from cruise ships are never recovered. One Reddit-based theory, consistent with this view, suggested that Ron Bradley may have briefly awakened when Amy went over, but didn't realize what he'd heard. When he got up at 6 a.m. and saw the balcony empty, the panic set in. That timeline fits the known facts. Amy was last seen sleeping on the balcony at 5:30 a.m., and just 30 minutes later, she was gone. At the time, we also weighed this theory against the many alleged sightings of Amy in the years that followed, in Curacao, Barbados, and elsewhere. But none of those sightings were ever conclusively verified. Some, like the 2005 escort website photos, remain haunting and unexplained, but still inconclusive. Experts like forensic investigator Peter Valentine have cautioned against relying too heavily on eyewitness memory. Eyewitnesses can become very convinced of what they say they saw, even though the forensic evidence makes it clear they could not have seen what they said. This aligns with other commentary pointing out how many of these sightings occurred years later, with implausibly high levels of detail. So while we acknowledge the disturbing possibility that Amy may have been abducted, our previous conclusion rested on what could be verified: that no one saw her after 5:30 a.m., no evidence of a struggle was found, and no one entered her room. In that context, an accidental fall or a decision to climb or go over the railing remains the simplest explanation. But for the Bradleys, that answer has never been acceptable. She had way too much going for her, Brad Bradley said, citing her recent graduation, her upcoming job, and her close relationship with her family. "She's not going to disappear," her mother Iva added. "She wouldn't leave us without a word." And now, with newly revealed witnesses and a possible timeline that places Amy with Yellow closer to 6 a.m., even the simplest explanation may no longer be enough. What it takes to solve it. 1. Recovering or confirming physical evidence. To fully confirm the overboard scenario, some form of physical evidence would need to surface, either recovered remains or verified objects linked to Amy. While chances of this are extremely slim after so much time, modern forensic tools offer renewed possibilities. If any of Amy's personal items from the cruise, clothing, hairbrushes, or belongings from the night she vanished, were preserved by the FBI or the family, they could be tested with advanced DNA and toxicology methods to check for any unnoticed substances or third-party DNA. Likewise, if remains are ever discovered with tattoos matching Amy's, the sun on her lower back, gecko on her navel, Tasmanian devil on her shoulder blade, and Chinese symbol on her ankle, those could be matched to her DNA or dental records. These possibilities are remote but not impossible. Similar cold cases have been solved with far less. Number 2. Reconstructing the last verified timeline. Even with a theory in place, the timeline around Amy's disappearance remains imprecise, and that gap has fueled speculation for decades. The only way to confirm or challenge the overboard theory is to pin down exactly where and when Amy was last seen, and by whom. This means revisiting witness accounts. The two sisters, Laurie and Crystal, who said they saw Amy and Yellow in the elevator around 5:45 a.m. Their mother, who verified their return time after 6 a.m. And Elizabeth, who claimed to see Yellow mixing Amy a suspicious drink at the nightclub, followed by a young woman yelling, "Senorita, kidnap." If their timelines are accurate, Amy was still alive and possibly interacting with someone who made her vulnerable, just minutes before she vanished. But if their accounts can't be confirmed or turn out to be mistaken, then the case tilts even further toward a tragic fall, or a deliberate exit from the balcony. These witnesses need to be formally re-interviewed, on record, with corroborating details verified through any available logs, statements, or CCTV data. 3. Reassessing the cruise ship's internal records. Even if no physical evidence remains, cruise ships in 1998 still kept detailed internal logs. Keycard usage, crew activity schedules, elevator logs, and possible CCTV coverage. If Amy's room key was used again after 5:30 a.m., it would contradict the fall theory. If a master key was used on the Bradley's door during that time, it would raise new questions. If Yellow or any crew accessed restricted areas around that time, like crew quarters or below-deck corridors, that might support the theory that Amy left the balcony and encountered someone else. Modern digital forensics could extract more from these logs now than investigators could in 1998, if the data still exists in backup form, either with Royal Caribbean or archived by investigators. 4. Pushing for closure, not just theories. This case, more than most, has been shaped by what wasn't done. Missed interviews, early contamination of the crime scene, and an investigative timeline that started far too late. To correct those failures, law enforcement should re-examine the escort website photos with modern AI facial recognition and biometric analysis. If the woman known as Jazz can be ruled out definitively, one of the most persistent abduction leads can finally be put to rest. Re-engage Alistair Yellow Douglas, the person most frequently mentioned in connection to the case. New interviews, even informal ones, might clarify timelines, behavior, or crew dynamics that could support or rule out certain theories. Publicly clarify the FBI's current position. Right now, the Bureau maintains that there's no evidence. Amy left the ship alive. But the Bradleys and many viewers of the recent Netflix series believe there's more to uncover. 5. Encouraging the right person to speak up. Even if Amy did fall or went over the railing on her own, there's still a chance someone knows more than they've said. Maybe they saw her moments before. Maybe they saw something suspicious and stayed quiet. Maybe a member of the crew heard rumors or witnessed behavior they dismissed at the time. The Netflix series has already triggered new tips. The family site, amybradleymissing.com, is still active. The FBI still lists her as a missing person, and public memory is now engaged again. As forensic expert Peter Valentine put it, this case is probably going to hinge on somebody remembering that they know something. The answer may not lie in a grand conspiracy. It may be something as simple as a witness, a crew member, or even a family friend who connects one final dot. And that dot, even 27 years later, could be enough.